Yeah, so I just want you to tell me just a little bit about yourself, like who you are, the name of your business, what you guys do, and specifically what you guys do for the aesthetic world.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So my name is Jared Rohrer. I'm the CEO and owner of a company called Aesthetic Conversion. We are a web SEO and Google Ads agency that specializes in conversion, and we are exclusively niched within the field of aesthetic medicine. And what I mean by specializing in conversion, there's a lot of great web agencies out there and web designers out there that can make really, really pretty content. But our sole focus is ensuring that you get butts in seats in your clinic. And I, as pretty as we want to make it, which we always make pretty designs, but as pretty as we want to make it, we always want to ensure that the ultimate outcome is that the schedule's full, you know? And so
Mhm.
we have our websites that we make that convert super well, and then we have an organic strategy to drive in traffic with SEO, and then we have a paid strategy to drive in traffic with Google Ads. We've been in the industry. I've been in the industry for just about 10 years now. Our company's been around for about 8.5-ish, 7.5-ish years. Um, and we're not slowing down. I speak at all kind of the major shows. You'll probably see us a lot at all of the other conferences. And I'm a gain trainer for Galderma. I do gain business for Galderma, and then I've done a lot of lectures for SkinCeuticals and Revision and a bunch of other companies in the industry. I just love this industry, and I'm obsessed with getting people results. That's my big goal. So I got into the industry because I was working with a physician named Shino Bay down in South Florida. And I just saw a lot of people try to take advantage of him all the time, where if they saw that he had doctor after his before his name, they would try to charge him, they would add an extra zero, to the
Mhm.
cost. And then when they saw that he was a famous doctor, they would add another zero after the cost. So they'd be like, oh, yeah, this guy can afford it. And I saw so many people constantly saying, oh, yeah, like you just charge what the client can afford. Like if they're making more money, then you should make more money. It's like, what are you talking? Like they're making the money. Like I'm going to provide a good service, and I want to charge a reasonable amount that keeps us profitable. And so I've always just wanted our company to be a reasonable choice that can help clinic owners scale and be a really good partner for them. Revision often calls us. I always appreciated this. They anytime I go to their events, they put this on my badge. Is they'll put Jared Rohr, best friend to the industry, and I've always thought that was a sweet little tag for me, where I like to be the best friend to the industry. I want to make sure that people are taken care of, and that their clinics are growing and that the families are taken care of. So yeah, I think that covers what we do.
Yeah, that's awesome. And of course, we work with you guys too, and it's been an amazing experience. And everything that you guys do when it comes to our website, I'll let the experts handle it. I'm not the expert there. That's where you guys step in. So I just appreciate everything that you guys do for us too. So,
Yeah. Well, and you've got Ben. Ben's super smart. Ben, like we have clients who are extremely hands off, where they're like, you guys just do 100% of it. Go, go and enjoy. And Ben, your husband, he's just very like he's very well informed, and he knows exactly what he wants too. So it's been fun to be able to like him say, oh, could we? He dreams up an idea. Could we do something like this on the site? And then we can take action and go right away. So it's nice that there's a good range of how we work, and you guys have experienced that
mhm.
where Ben has had like particular things that he wants, and said, let's go for this. And then poof, we're able to make the magic happen. There's also other clients that are more like you, that are much more like, oh yeah, just do whatever. As long as
Do
it's
your
working, just
thing.
do it, do your thing, do whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
And
You know what's
well,
best.
it's as long as we're getting leads, I'm fine.
Yeah, for sure.
And which is it's certainly that's how I like to be until I'm not. Then
Mhm.
when I'm not, I'm like we're redoing our website right now, and I'm treating our team like I'm the client, and I'm realizing I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm high maintenance, where it's like little tiny things, and I'm like, oh, how can we fix this and do this? Blah, 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 blah. Can we do a little more? And I'll be high maintenance until I'm not anymore, and then they'll never
Yeah.
hear from me about the site again. But I'm realizing that I'm Definitely. I'm very particular. And I like to think that I'm
Mhm.
like you, where it's like, oh yeah, whatever. And I'm like, then when I look at it, I'm like, no. It's so
But
bad.
I
So
think
bad.
when you're in that field though too, it's like me with our own books and accounting, right? I can get really like nitpicky and
Mm,
specific about the way that I want my financials to read, what I want to measure, the things I want to look at. I can talk about that all day long, but it's because yeah, you're in that space all day long, and so you
yeah,
know exactly what you want. Whereas
that's
yeah,
true. And
when
I'm completely hands off with what you guys do for us.
yeah,
So it's, for anybody listening, because Speakeasy manages our books, and I'm
yeah,
completely hands off. I think the extent of my involvement with what Speakeasy, I'm always just like, I'll hear from your team, and they'll be like, hey, I did this, and I'm like, great, like, and I'm sure they're waiting for like verification of like me being like, oh yes, looks good to me. I'm like, great, I trust that you did it great, and like we just got our we just got our actually you guys referred us that tax firm PT, is that what they're called?
oh
um
yeah, Pels,
Pels.
JT Pels.
They are so sick. First of all,
Oh,
we
awesome.
had our biggest year in business last year.
Yeah.
And JT calls me 2 weeks ago, and he goes, hey man, we just finished filing your 2025 taxes. And I was like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. I was like, all right, I'm bracing myself. I was like, what do we owe? He goes,
Yeah.
you owe nothing this year. I was like, shut up. Are you kidding? It's because we were so well balanced with the amount we invested into marketing and
Yeah.
amount we reinvested back into our business. He was like, you're good. You're good. I was like, oh my gosh. And then he
Amazing.
he he helped us with like back previous taxes, and he made us money on previous years because we hadn't filed for like the last 2 years. We had to pay some penalties, but we ended up profiting on that side too.
Yeah.
So he's just good. But all that to say that our books
Yeah.
were so sharp and well organized that he was like, "Oh my gosh, this is like butter. Totally fine here." I think the only
Oh,
time
awesome.
I'm ever particular is like I'm like, "Oh, can I get this?" Like I'll ask for like certain reports, like vendor reports
Yeah.
of how much are we spending per vendor that works with our company. And your team's very good to just quickly spit that out and say, "Oh yeah, here you go. Here's your monthly vendor report, so you can see where all of your money's going for this company that you work with and this company that you work with." So that's
Good,
where
good.
I get into trouble is I'll spend too much and I don't realize where it's all going.
Yeah, the budgeting aspect of it, right? This
Hmm.
like seeing all the dollars leave, where did it go to for sure. Well, good. I'm glad. I'm glad our team's doing a good job, and I would expect that. But yeah, and I know that you I would expect that. I'm glad I'm getting good reports.
They better do a good job.
Also gonna have to bring down the hammer. No,
Yes.
no, and I know you're working with Rory too, and I think that's been a. I think she really enjoyed working with your guys' team. I've talked to her a little bit about the account and stuff like that, and you guys have been a great client, and
Are our books significantly easier than the average med spa since we have so many little X factors? Like, is there a major difference between us and the average clinic because of how much I would think more simple our purchases are?
yes, I will say that. I mean, medical spas in general, they just have a lot of moving parts already when it comes
Yeah.
to just the general operations, right? And so we're tracking all of those little nuances when it comes to medical spas. So, and lots of times too, they have different softwares that we're having to access, EMR systems, and those EMR systems are really robust and they have a million different reports you can pull and you can manipulate and customize. So we're usually having to go in there, and depending on how they enter that data into their EMR system is going to affect the way that we pull that report and pull that data and make sure that it matches QuickBooks and the accounting software. And we do the same breakdown for all their direct costs, so that way they can measure those profitability, those profit centers, and then breaking down their wages too. A lot of them want to see payroll expenses, direct wages for each of those different streams of revenue, right? So if you're offering injections, for example, you need to know how much you're spending on all the injectables, but then also how much are you spending on the wages for the injectors to
Yeah.
provide that
Hmm.
service. And so, yeah, I definitely think when it comes to medical spas in general, there's just so many moving parts that we're
Yeah.
constantly keeping track of, as long
It's
as we have
hard
all
too
the
because
data.
yeah, well,
So,
it's hard too because they make so much money,
yeah,
and sometimes they think that they're making all that money. So like
yes.
there's so many clinic owners that I've worked with that make hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars a month, and
Hmm.
then their cards get declined. And
Yeah.
I'm like, guys, what's going on? Like, we are not expensive whatsoever. And
Hmm.
anytime I've ever talked to like a clinic manager that's like a few, like it's just the manager of the business. They're always like, oh man, the owners think that they make more than they do, and they spend it before they make it. Um,
Absolutely.
which is
100%. I mean, that's always like our
unbelievable.
biggest when people hop on the phone call with us, they're always like their biggest thing that they say is like, I make all this money, I see my top line bringing in like 10 million a year or whatever it may be. I don't know where my money is going. I have
Yeah.
no idea what's in my bank account. I have no
Mhm.
idea when I'm spending my money. Cause also too, they'll get on like recurring, they'll have everything like set up for auto pay, or
Mhm.
recurring transactions and things like that. So they don't even know like what they're still paying for it for something that they should have canceled like 10 months ago or something like that. So
Yes.
it's, I mean, yeah, they're notorious for being they're fantastic at what they do when it comes to the medical side, but when it comes to their finances, a lot of them, and I think that's people in general, business owners in general.
I'm
Um,
like that. I'm
yeah,
like that. I literally I read Maven's new book, the Med Spa Profitability book.
yeah,
They
yeah,
they gave me like an early copy to do like a little review of it,
nice,
and they had a that this is why actually I started asking Rory for that vendor report is because they have what
yeah,
they call the daily close, where at the end of every day they tell their clinics like you should take a look at here's all the money that went out, here's all the money that
yeah,
came in. That way you
yeah,
know at the end of every day where you sat. And I was like, oh my gosh, I should totally do that. And so I did. And then I saved
yeah,
us, I think, $25,000 a year because I looked through the vendor report that Rory sent. And I was like, why are we still paying for that? Why are we paying for that? What the, Jared? And I canceled all these accounts that were stupid and sitting around. And I saved us a rip ton of money every year just by looking at it.
yeah, for sure. It's something as simple as that. I think too, it's like you have, like, especially a lot of these bigger clinics, they have multiple employees who have business credit cards, right? Because they've got
Mhm.
permission to go purchase
Yeah.
things. And it's just easy to lose track right there. I mean, it's easy to lose track of one credit card, but if you've got five rotating credit cards out there where employees are in charge of making those purchases, but maybe that employee leaves and that
Right.
credit card is still going and have all these auto ships, auto pays on them. I mean, it's really easy to get out of hand. So, yeah, that's um, our biggest concern when people call us is like, I don't know where my money went.
Yeah,
So,
exactly. Yeah,
yeah,
and I know it's definitely my problem. Like I'll look at our top line and I'll always just say like we're making so much. How are we not feeling it? Now, I will say anytime I've brought our books to a business coach or to Maven or to you guys, it's always been people will look at it and just say, "Oh, you just need if you have you're right at your cogs, Jared. You're just right at your the problem is like if you just raise revenue a little bit more, then you'll start to feel the differential."
yeah,
And which has been totally true. So being able to have like super clean books with you guys to show to a company like Maven or to work with my business coach and say, hey, look, here's exactly what's going in and out of our business. It's way easier for them to be like, oh, all you got to do if you add 10 more clients, like you're going to be solid. Um,
yeah,
and so I have noticed that like and I've always heard Skytail talk about that too. They're like every problem's a revenue problem. And it's like, well, lots of problems are revenue problems. You're like, there's very few problems more revenue can't solve. And it's like, there's some that it can't. But I agree, adding more rev
yes,
certainly won't hurt.
yes,
And that's
for
definitely been
sure.
the case for us, where being able to look at the numbers and know where things are going has been so peaceful. And it's
Yeah,
helped us. I mean, we tripled last year in size. And I think we started working together last year officially, right? Like January-ish last year,
yeah,
February-ish last year.
yep.
Yeah, we tripled over the course of last year. There's a handful of like key factors, but good bookkeeping was certainly one of them.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad to hear it. Yeah, for sure. Definitely, I agree with the revenue problem. But it all ties back to, if you just can't measure it, then you can't grow it, right? It's like if you don't know
Right.
even where your base is, then how do you know what even your goals are? Are they realistic
Hmm.
goals?
Yes.
And even when it comes to a lot of clinics too, a big issue that we run into because gift cards, right? Those are huge sales in the medical spa world, especially around December time. And so you get an extra $200,000 in the bank account
Yeah.
because of all these gift
It's
card sales. And
it's
so they
not
just
real.
automatically think like, they're like, cool, let's
Uh,
spend it. Right. But then
yeah,
you're like, you
no.
have to remember services have not been rendered yet. So it's like even just measuring those
Yeah.
sales correctly on your books
Yeah.
because I'm like, yes, there is an extra $200,000 in that bank account, but
Yeah.
remember, you have not yet spent the cost for those
Yes.
services. It's going to be like
We
3 months
had
down the road.
we had one client that we switched over to Shopify. They were in their own little WordPress e-commerce system and they wanted to switch their whole thing into Shopify.
Yeah,
and they um they uh made the switch, but the problem is we had to switch their gift card system. And
Okay.
the moment that you switch it in Shopify, it sends an auto email to everybody letting them know their balance. And
Oh,
they started sending, they had, I think, $700,000 in open gift cards for their e-commerce for their skincare. And all of a sudden, there was $700,000 worth of collections that we were sending out to these people, like, "Hey, you can come buy skincare products," and it's luckily
cash
it was
in.
bad. Luckily, it was batching them, but the clinic was like, "Hey, like, yes, we have all these gift cards, but we cannot notify everyone at once that they should use. Like, we're gonna die if we
We're
do it.
gonna die.
Yeah, we're
One
gonna
month,
die.
seven hundred
Stop,
thousand dollars cashed in.
stop, 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 please." And so we ended up creating a solution that like added the people in without necessarily sending these giant streams of notifications, saying like you've got $700,000 worth of. It's like, oh my God.
Yeah, time to
But
cash in, man. Yeah.
I and that's the problem is that
Yeah.
probably in a really good, well-managed ecosystem, that clinic just has that 700 grand sitting. And now, look, I'm speaking from a point of privilege because I'm not a clinic owner. But what I will
Yeah.
say is, if I were a clinic owner, what I would
Yeah.
probably do, you tell me what your thoughts would be on this. I would
Hmm.
probably take gift cards, like purchases from gift cards, and separate them and throw them into like a high yield investment account and just let it all sit in there where it's like if you're holding on to 700 grand worth of
Hmm.
gift cards for years, why not just let that accrue up while, and I don't know about 700 grand for years, but like have this nice little place that you store it where you still aren't touching it as profit, but it's also making you money in the process. Um,
Yeah.
somewhere safe where you're not touching it, and it's still benefiting you, because
Hmm.
so many clinic owners, so many people I've worked with, they would think, oh great, that's a new house, oh my gosh, I can buy that beach house, and it's like, no, you can't.
You
No, you
can't. Yeah.
can't. You have to render service, or you have to render, in that case, skincare sales.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think that would be a great idea. But as long as we're separating that out, like what you said in the very beginning, it's like even if you're on cash basis and you're counting it as revenue in the beginning, you need to know that that cost hasn't been rendered yet, or
Yes.
what I would prefer accrual, putting it on accrual, and then you have it sitting as a liability, and then hopefully at the end of the year too, you can defer that income. But coming back to uh, good bookkeeping, it's also just the best tax strategy you can ultimately have when it
Yes.
comes to that, right? So it's like, talking about how you had an easy transition with your CPA, and your taxes were all
Mhm.
good and organized, and really it comes down to the data that you feed the CPA or that you're feeding to the tax return, and not scrambling at the end of the year and you're like, I think this is right. I'm
Yeah.
guessing this is close. But that's
Yeah.
where people end up spending a lot of money on their taxes, is because you're like, I think it's all revenue, but maybe it's not. Maybe you've got like $30,000 worth of deferred income in there that you're not claiming. But it's
Hmm.
all about how you organize it throughout the year. So,
Yes. Yes.
mhm.
Yeah, and having it nice and clean. I mean, and that's exactly it. Having it nice and clean is what like let our tax people be like, "Oh, you're good." We're like, "Are you sure?" Because I
Right?
always feel like I spend a lot of money on like going out to conferences, buying hotel
Yeah.
rooms, buying sponsorship slots, buying whatever it is that, I'll go to a conference and I'll spend $10,000 over the weekend on things that we need while we're there.
Yeah.
And and whenever we're spending a lot at a conference, I'm mentally prepped for it, but
Yeah.
it's still takes a major hit. And it's been nice too because for budgeting, this has been huge. So bookkeeping has been huge to us for budgeting employees as well, where it's just cleaner now. So I'll be able to call my friends over at Maven and say, hey, can I afford another employee this month? And they'll be like, yeah, what's the salary? Okay, great. What's the service that you're going to be doing? I'm like, I'm going to be doing this. So it's adding revenue, whatever it is. Like we just hired a new full-time Google Ads director internally. And I was like, it's a Google Ads director, so they're going to be producing revenue. And they're like, oh my gosh, yeah, absolutely. With your current profit margin, you could totally. And then but it's because we keep our books clean because previously we did not.
Yeah, yeah, and it allows you to be able to make those decisions in a timely manner, right? So rather than
Mhm.
being like, "Can I afford this person right now?" And then Maven coming back to you like, "Well, we don't have, any good data to look at. You've got 8 months worth of data that we haven't organized, hasn't been cleaned up. We would just be
Yeah.
guessing at this point." It doesn't hold you back from making those important decisions right there in the moment. You're
Mhm.
like, "I need to hire this person next month. I really need to
Right.
know right now if we can afford it or not."
Correct.
And so just staying on top of it is going to allow
Yeah.
you to make those decisions that
Yeah,
keeps you.
we're in a place right now where we're hiring a couple of I have one more account manager I want to hire. Like if I know that like I always judge what we do as a business by rate limiting step, which is I believe it's a chemist's term. The rate limiting step is the next thing that's going to stop you from momentum. And I feel like it's some sort of a chemical term where it's like, oh, the rate limiting step is how quickly DNA can multiply or cells can multiply or something like that. Doesn't matter. No, yeah, it's because it's reference to cancer. So, I always think
Okay.
of I always think of like what's our next rate limiting step in our organization, and the next
Yeah.
thing that I see us hitting a ceiling on is like account managers and accounts that can be managed. Where like our current account management team is they haven't yet, and they don't even know it. But I'm like, watch, guys, 5, 6, 7, 8 more clients, and you're gonna start to hit a threshold. We're going to start to see our clients sending emails of like, oh, this thing hasn't gotten done, or you haven't gotten back to me fast enough, or their schedules are going to start filling up. And I'm like, I could see the future. I
Hmm.
know I've done this dance. And so like I'm like itching right now to hire one more like full-time account manager so we can start like like diffusing out
Yes.
the accounts. Um,
Yes.
so I've got Maven on standby with that. I'm like, come on, let me make the hire. Let me get her in. Let me get her in.
Pull the trigger. No,
Pull
we
the
we do the same
trigger.
thing. We have the same thing too, where we kind of have a dollar in mind per month because we're working with Maven as well, and they've been able to kind of put a dollar amount to that individual. At this point, this is when you start need to look for a new hire, and it's
Yes.
fantastic to just be able to like, yeah, it's kind of like predicting the future. It's like having a crystal ball, but really, it's just measuring and mapping everything out, the current data that you
Hmm.
had, and now you
Yeah.
can look at the trends for the future, and that way you can just be proactive rather than reactive to
Yes.
your situation. And that's what we've operated in the past. We've done the reactive, and it's so stressful, whereas now
Hmm.
I could be proactive and we can hire that one more that is needed,
Yeah.
where that way it's just like you said, it's evening out that workload, and that way we're not
Hmm.
seeing that all of a sudden it starts getting really tight, everybody's a little bit stressed, the workload's a little bit
Yeah.
much, and we're
Yeah.
getting those emails coming in for why hasn't this gotten done kind of a thing. So
Yes, and then you're like, oh, I'm so sorry, and
yeah.
and it's so funny because as the owner, you see that too, where you're like, oh, like there's always this aspect of yes, the team needs to be held accountable for things that they're blowing it on or whatever, but then there's also the side where as the owner that you try to take your own accountability where you're like, did I support them enough? Did I give them enough resources? I know right now our team has enough resources where like we're starting to be able to hold people internally way more accountable.
Yeah.
Whereas previously I would always just feel bad. I'm like, no, I thrust so much on these people.
Hmm.
I'm getting way out of the weeds as the owner, which is really nice. I'm almost all sales and marketing at this point. I have very little direct client responsibilities. We have so many team members now. I think we have 15 to 20 full timers right now.
Hmm.
I have so little direct involvement. I'm much more consultative. Like I'll be in calls with them and they'll say, "Oh, I'm struggling with this." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, you should try this." But then the
Yeah.
team's on the call listening and then they go off and they get everything done, which is exactly how I need to operate because if I'm responsible to get it done, I'm a mess.
Yeah.
Anyway,
100%. And you're the owner, you're the brains of the operations. And so your job is to make the growth happen. So you can't
yeah.
be in the day to day, right? So yeah.
Correct. Correct. Yeah,
Awesome.
I get stuck in it. I get stuck in it. But then I was on a call an hour ago with our team, and we had an urgent email come through from a client that's like, "Hey, we have to remove this service. It's highly urgent. We got to get off the site as fast as possible." I'm sure we didn't even ask what the problem was, but it's something I'm sure they got into some sort of a legal issue with whatever the service offering was. And
Mm.
both he was a customer service rep for us. He is a customer service rep for us, and both he and I saw the email come through at the same time, and I was like, hold on, and I start going in and getting it done because I
Yeah.
want the client happy,
Sure.
and and B, there was so much panic in the email that I'm like, no, dude, like I'm halting, I'm halting right now, and I'm getting it done. But I've told our team to not CC me on as many like
Yeah.
nitty gritties as possible because I have that habit, and I'm sure you do too, where like you'll see a
100%.
problem and you're like, oh, let me just go fix it. And my first thought was like, I have three available full timers that can do this exact thing that are hired to do this exact thing that I just pulled away from them. But it was also like the task got done in seconds. So the client was like, oh, wow, thanks. Well, thanks for being great partners, whatever. So it
Yeah.
did add value. But I try not to step on their toes as much as I can. My assistant's really
100%.
good about delegating. We'll be in calls and oh, you should let so and so lead this meeting. And I'm like, oh yeah. Yeah. You're right. You're right. You're right. She's
You're like
so good about trying to get me out of I could see Tony, my assistant is a godsend. Tony, if you ever watch this, you're the freaking best. And happy birthday. This is filmed on your birthday.
Happy birthday,
It's,
Tony.
yeah, I'll tell Tony after this. Uh, anyway, Tony has been instrumental in like she'll
Yeah.
see me doing too much. Uh, because I've told her your job is to optimize me, that your whole
Yeah.
job optimize me to make the company more profitable, to grow us. And if you see me doing things that I really shouldn't be doing, like try to get them away from me. And so far, she's been with us for a little over 90 days, and she is dynamite. I'll work with Tony till the day I die. Like we will be thick as thieves forever.
That's
Um,
awesome.
unless she goes off and builds some other giant company, in which case I'll just be cheering her on. But um, I want to
Right.
work with Tony forever. Anyway, sorry. I know it's a tangent. I'm sorry. Sorry.
No, but that's great. I mean, that's I totally understand that feeling of just trying to pull out of the business as much as possible, let your team handle it, the people that you hired to do it. It is really hard to let go for sure. I try not to be CC'd in emails as well, but when I do see them, it is so hard for me to like, even if it's like the middle of the
Uh,
night, or like early in the
Same.
morning, I try really hard to have boundaries on myself because I'm
Mhm.
like, it's not urgent. It's fine. I don't need to handle this email. So and so is
Yeah.
going to be clocked in an hour. They've got it. But it's like,
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes I really have to control myself to be like, Angelica, step
Yeah.
out of it. But
Do you guys have round the clock support, or do you just work during American hours? Do you have like or do you have
we
24
just
hour
do
support?
American hours. So Monday through Friday, 9 to 5 Eastern
Mhm.
time
Gotcha. Okay.
is the time that I mean, there's very rarely, so our kind of our motto is bookkeeping and accounting. There shouldn't be anything that's urgent, right? If we've got
Yeah,
good bookkeeping and accounting practices throughout the year,
that's true.
then we shouldn't run into any emergencies at the end of the year. Now, of course,
Mhm.
there's always there's unique situations. So like, we've had accounts before where they're in the process of like a merger or an acquisition,
Mm,
and
yeah.
they're in the process of selling their practice, and maybe somebody needs a report sooner rather than later. So in those
Yeah.
situations, we can be a little bit flexible with our availability, and we discuss that always ahead of time. But when it comes to just like the day-to-day bookkeeping, monthly, quarterly, all the way up until the end of the year at the tax return time, if we've kept up on everything and everything's been in order, then there shouldn't be any emergencies. So,
That's really cool. Then I'm changing our business. I'm gonna do an accounting firm too. I'm doing
yeah.
a bookkeeping, bookkeeping firm.
Now
That
it
sounds
does
so
it
peaceful.
It does require us to whip our clients into shape a little bit too. So I
Mhm.
do have to, especially like if they're a medical spa and they're working with a CFO like Maven, for example, they
Mhm.
have a strict schedule, right? And so we have
Yeah.
very tight deadlines when it comes
Yeah.
to, especially our medical spas. So we have to be on the clients for getting us bank statements, for example, getting us access to
Mhm.
EMRs, statements, getting us access to their payroll accounts so we can pull the reports. So I always tell people we can get it done on time, no problem. And most likely we'll get it done early as long as you are responsive enough to get me the data that I need. And so as long as I
Mhm.
have, and usually people are good about it, especially clinic owners, they're like, just whatever access you need, here's the email, here's the login
Yes.
credentials. You go do it. I don't want to
Mhm.
ever like be bothered with it. And
Yeah.
that's usually when we can just like we get it done early. But
Yeah.
yeah, as long as they get us our stuff
And you
on
guys do a good job of keeping people feeling safe too. Of like making it because that is like the most like exposing. thing.
Mhm.
I think showing people your money is
Mhm.
more exposing than getting naked in front of somebody. I think it is more
100%.
like it
Yeah.
is more
Yeah.
embarrassing or you're more vulnerable when you're
Yes.
showing somebody. Because I remember when we were first onboarding with you guys that
Mhm.
your team was asking for things, and I immediately was feeling resistance internally. Where I was like, well, like, no, they can't look at our money. And I'm like, no, no, no,
Yeah.
actually, that's their job is to look at our money. That's right. That's
Yes.
right.
Yeah.
Their job is to look at our money. But I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
feeling resistance internally because I was like, I just felt that like, wait, just
Like we
don't
asked
just
you to get naked, right? It's just like,
literally you're like, don't
yeah.
freak out. Guys, don't freak
Yeah.
out. It's okay, I swear. Yeah, it's very much it's very exposing, and you guys do a great job of making people be like, it's fine. Like we look at this all the time. Like, you're fine. Maven, same thing. Like when I did my onboarding call with Kristen and we did our very first like meeting, um, uh, sorry, hold on. Okay, good. Sorry. We did our very first meeting. Um, uh, they made me feel just um like it was all okay. You know, they're like, oh
Yeah.
yeah, things are great, and here's all you got to do next year. And I'm like, oh my gosh, wow, this is way less scary than I thought it was.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
No,
take the
it is
fear
true.
out of finance.
For sure. And that's what we always tell people too. Your finances should never be a mystery and it shouldn't be something you should be scared to look at. But I understand it's natural to feel that way.
Yeah,
I mean, even with us, when we first started working with Maven, even though I've looked at our numbers, I look at our numbers every single day, multiple times a day. It's just like a habit that I have. And even when I know what our numbers look like, when you do show that to somebody else, it's very vulnerable. It's like I'm telling somebody
yeah,
my deepest secrets
it
and I'm
is.
trusting them to like keep my secrets safe.
Mm-hmm.
And but we understand that, and so that is very important to us to make sure that the client feels 100% comfortable, which is why we never want to push too much too. I mean, obviously we have to see
Yeah,
the numbers in order to give you guys the data that you need in order to grow. But I always try to make people just feel as comfortable. I'm like, when you're ready, let me know, kind of a thing. I need to see
yeah,
bank statements. If you want us to have access, that's great. We'll pull it ourselves. If not, you can send us the bank statements. But then I always have to round it out with keep in mind our information that we give you is only as accurate as the data that you give us. So the more accurate you want your data to be, you need to be more transparent. And
yeah,
sometimes people are hesitant in the beginning. And then after a few months of working with us, they realize how valuable it is to be completely
yes,
transparent. And then
yes.
we can give them so much more back. And then of course, then they realize like it's not a big deal. You know, it's
Yeah. And the things that they want to be like private about, they can
mhm.
like it's something that we transparently haven't done yet. We run almost all of our finances out of the same account right now, which is dumb.
Mhm.
And we need to have like a separate account that we're like paying ourselves through. But we
Sure.
do a lot of like owner distributions for payroll right now for me.
Yeah.
But like so because of that, like our personal finances sometimes will be threaded into what you guys are like sifting through. And the
Mhm.
second that all of those are gone, it's even easier, I imagine, for people to go like, no, 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 no. All your books should just be business. Make sure you're paying yourself well so that if you want to spend your money on whatever you want to spend your money on, you don't have to stress about it being mucked up in your books.
100%. I'm always like, just take an owner, do a transfer, owner's
Yeah,
draw transfer. You can do it on top of your wages. If you don't want to see us to see your personal transactions, and we
yeah.
never care either way, you know,
I
like
don't
it's like
either.
whatever, you know, you spent money on groceries, you spent money on travel plans, not a big deal. But I tell the same thing too. If you don't want us to see it, not that we care, you can just do a
Yeah,
transfer, and then we just do that as an owner's draw, and then everything else is
exactly.
personal. So or everything else is business. But
Yeah,
I think every business owner does that. They use the business
yeah.
credit card for a little bit of personal
A
expenses here and there.
hundred percent, 100%.
You know,
Well, and for me, it's like that was just a habit that we got into being in business.
totally.
Like I never knew how to own a business before our company, so it was like I've been just learning over the last 7 years. Like, oh, here's how to be in business. Oh, here's how to actually run things the way you
Yeah.
should. I feel like this year is the first year that I've become more of the actual CEO and
Yeah.
not owner founder, and
Yeah.
where I've had to do CEO jobs, building departments and building people and challenging people and not just
Mhm.
like being Mr. Whimsical owner founder. So I've that's been like that journey has been very recent for us.